Today on the show, we're going through 4 decades of sci-fi television. Welcome to the Grizzled Geek Podcast. We're back finally after several months of no podcasts.
Like us.
Sorry, listeners, we've been focusing on this YouTube thing for a while. Finally decided to give up on that and come back to the podcast. For those of you thinking, just kidding, we're still there.
Yeah.
For those of you thinking that the Grizzled Geek Podcast was not diverse or progressive enough, we've gone out and found ourselves a female millennial to join the cast. Please help me welcome Kirsten. Thank you for joining us. She's one of our new hosts. Not quite grizzled yet, but
I'm working on it.
Yeah. All right. Well, just a reminder out there, everybody can listen to these podcasts. Well, if you are listening to it, it's probably going to be on either Stitcher or iTunes or any other place that, actually, those are the only 2 places right now.
Those are the only 2 places we're working with right now.
We're aware that there are other places that you can listen to podcasts. We're just not there yet because, well, we're lazy. But
and they cost more.
And they cost more. But, yes. Or you can just watch us on YouTube, like, as always. This week, I don't say this week. We're not weekly anymore. This month, we're discussing genre television, specifically sci-fi, because I believe we put together a list, of our favorite genre television.
Yeah, we were going to do the evolution of genre television in general, and then realized there's way too much.
Yeah, and then we tried to scale it back to just what we watched, and then realized, wow, this is still four episodes. So we're breaking it down. We're going to go by type, and today's episode is going to be about sci-fi television.
Right.
Now, Kirsten, you've probably not going to be familiar with some of these earlier works.
Probably most of them. I've heard the name of most of these. I just haven't taken the time to actually watch all the episodes for the older series.
Aha. So what was the first, for you, what was the first sci-fi show you remember? If you actually are aware of?
Probably Firefly.
Firefly.
I watched that when I was a kid and loved it, and then watched it as an adult and loved it, and yeah, it's just a good one.
The fact that you watched it when you were a kid kind of bothers me a little bit, but yes, Firefly. That was a really good one. If you're going to start in sci-fi TV, that is a pretty good. You can't get a better start than that.
Except for how they treated it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
not getting a full shake and running out of order and stuff like that. But,
I believe that a lot of these shows...
Quality-wise, yes.
Quality-wise. I think it falls in the same category as a lot of these shows on this list we're going to talk about that were ahead of its time. Or that if Firefly came out 5 or 10, even 5 years later than it did, I believe it would have been a much more successful show.
I agree.
But...
I mean... they've got a movie to prove that.
That's true.
I mean,
that's right. They got a fan base.
It was done, and they were like, I guess we'll do a movie to wrap things up.
There's comic books out there, too.
That's true.
There was a lot of interest in rebooting it, or not rebooting it, but continuing it, but it's done.
Sorry, folks.
It's been too long.
It's too long. It's done.
Yeah.
As much as I love Firefly, it's too late for it. But, all right, let's talk about some of the early days of sci-fi. Now, we've kind of broken this down by decade.
And just to kind of set some ground rules here, we're looking at live action TV. We're not looking at animated stuff. We're not looking at movies or even really limited series.
Right.
So they are actual, full-length television
shows.
Well,
we got a couple limited series on here.
Like what?
Like V?
Well, yeah, I guess there was that was kind of a long miniseries.
So Doug's breaking his own rules. He's a rebel. And you can't trust him.
Well, V is so iconic, you kind of have
to. Unless it breaks
Well, and it did have a series based on it, too, didn't it?
Did it? I don't remember. I thought it was like a long... I thought it was just a miniseries.
Or maybe it was just a really long miniseries, because it wasn't like some 5-episode thing.
Yeah. I don't know.
Probably should have done our research on that first.
Probably.
It's been so long since I've watched it, so...
Yeah. You know how we do it. We just wing these podcasts. Research. Who cares? Let's talk about stuff we've seen. All right. So we're going to talk about first the 70s and earlier. So this is all stuff that we watch in syndication reruns because we were pretty young in the 70s.
Yep.
Right? So all these shows we watched were, we didn't watch them when they first came out. Probably the granddaddy of all of them is Star Trek. Is that the big? I mean, obviously there was sci-fi stuff.
There was sci-fi before that,
but this is the one that kicked off. I mean, I think the golden age of sci-fi.
Yeah, as far as TV shows go, it's pretty much everything that came 80s and after owes itself to Star Trek more than, say, like a Lost in Space or something,
right.
Space 1999 or something like that.
Right. So now, Kirsten, I'm sure, obviously, you've heard of Star Trek.
Oh, I've heard of it, yes.
What do you know about Star Trek? Have you seen any of the original episodes?
I've seen... So I'm kind of a completionist, so I refuse to watch any of the new stuff until I've seen the old stuff. And I just started watching the first season of Star Trek. So I believe the last episode I watched was, I think his name was Billy, I could be wrong, but he's got mind control powers that are too strong for him, and the faces he makes are so amazing. I love that episode.
Is it Ron Howard's brother? That was.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great episode.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Wow. Okay. So you're back in. The great thing about
season one,
the original Star Trek is you don't have to. They're not. You watch them out of order.
Yeah, they don't. They're not self-referencing for the most part.
Yeah.
But I need to feel like I've completed something.
Yeah.
There's so much to it that if I don't watch it from start to finish, then I'll feel like I'm missing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they definitely do in the later shows reference episodes from the 4 seasons it ran.
Yeah,
I think. It just within the series itself, you don't necessarily have to go in order.
Sure.
You are not going to lose anything
Sure.
except for as long as you watch the pilot before anything else, then
Right.
you're fine.
Then you're good. Yeah. Now, are you watching the remastered versions or
Yeah, I think
with
they
the
were.
new special effects?
Ooh, maybe.
Okay,
I am doing them on Netflix, so whatever Netflix is offering. That's,
I know for a while that they were
maybe it
going
was
back and
Hulu.
remastering all the. Or they had like a fan base one. It was doing adding better special effects, all this stuff, and like backgrounds and like they're like in a shuttle bay they like put windows of crewmen and stuff like that and make it look bigger.
Oh,
and stuff
maybe.
like that.
I know that I've watched it and thought to myself, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So maybe it is remastered.
Maybe it is because they're started using those. All right, yeah, and Star Trek, like I said, obviously we're getting more Star Trek as we get through the decades.
Right.
Every decade's had Star Trek, except the aughts for some reason. Early 2000s didn't have anything. The dead period of Star Trek.
Yeah.
All right, but some of the other ones from the 70s, you mentioned Lost in Space.
Yeah.
I was never a big Lost in Space fan. I watched it as a kid, but I mean,
it was one of those that was okay. It wasn't necessarily.
I rank it up there with Land of the Lost and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it definitely falls into that boat. Even lesser production values than Star Trek.
Yes.
And it's just one of those. It's kind of iconic, but it's not necessarily great must-see sci-fi TV that your life isn't complete as a sci-fi nerd if you haven't seen Lost in Space.
I watched it for Robbie the Robot, and anything that didn't have Robbie the Robot in it, or,
Danger Will Robinson.
Yeah, I didn't care. Have you heard anything about Lost in Space?
I don't think I have. Is Danger Will Robinson from that? I've at least heard that phrase before. Didn't know that's where
that's
it was
pretty
from.
much the only thing that's stuck around.
Yeah,
from
that's the only
that
iconic
is
thing from there. Yeah. That and the robot. And they did a horrible movie.
Well, and the Lost
90s.
in Space it's essentially Swiss Family Robinson in space.
Okay.
Yeah, they're stranded.
Yeah, their ship goes off course. They're stranded.
Sure.
And that's it. They're even called the Robinsons.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, so it is literally Swiss Family Robinson in space. So it's.
Is it a comedy or is it serious?
Well, it's relatively serious with some comedic elements. The evil doctor is the comedic relief in the show.
Although he was played by Gary Oldman in the movie, and he's straight evil. But
in the show, he was not.
In the show, he was not. He was kind of goofy.
The movie was pretty bad. It had Matt LeBlanc in it, right?
It had Matt LeBlanc in it.
So
it also had
see the acting quality.
It had the young sister from Party of Five, who I forget her name, voices Mako.
Oh, I don't remember.
Anyway, she was the little girl in Lost in Space. Anyway, enough of Lost in Space. Forget that. Let's get on to talk about something cooler. Okay, let's talk Buck Rogers. I mean, that started in the 70s, rolled into the 80s, but that was, as a kid, I love Buck Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I enjoy it now as an adult, but now more of a comedy.
Yeah, now it's just wonderful cheese.
It is. You like watching. You're like, this show is amazing. It was totally different now as an adult. As you're watching it as a kid, you're like, oh, it's awesome. Now you're watching it like it's hilarious.
Right.
I don't think it was intentionally supposed to be hilarious, but it's hilarious now. I think we've told you a little bit about Buck Rogers.
I think there was a day that you had gone on a rant on it, and so you showed me a video clip of it, and I don't remember which clip it was, but I remember thinking how ridiculous it was. 'Cause everything. Oh, it was and you showed the intro, which was also very ridiculous.
Yes. And a very 70s appeal, like the big V-neck.
Oh my God. And then you told me how he does conventions, and he, like, to this day, wears that beanie
He goes to conventions now. Yeah, he will bust out the jumpsuit. He's an old man. He's got to be
like upper 60s, maybe 70s.
70s, yeah. Erin Gray, though, she's still cute, even older, doesn't matter. Still have a crush on Erin Gray. Yeah. But he still busts out the suit every once in a while. He's got a gut. He's an old man. He's got no hair, but he's always be Buck Rogers. So, okay. This is really great stuff here. We had probably rounding out the 70s as far as early stuff for sci-fi. $6 Million Man. My Uncle Lee, was Lee Majors, star of $6 Million Man. You heard anything about this?
This one's the one where we'll build him faster, stronger.
Yes. That is it. See? Some of this stuff still survives in the conscience of millennials today.
And there's been talks, and I think for a long time now, of remaking this series, right? Doing a new version of the series. Is that still in development now?
It's been in development for a while, and they were talking about movies. We'll see. So far, nothing's been greenlit, but But looking back in the day, it tells you how dated it is. $6 million. I was reading somewhere the other day where they had basically a bionic eye. I was hoping somebody a blind person see, and it was basically by shooting the image in. Anyway, the cost of the eye was $12 million.
Oh my God.
For the eye.
Alone.
For the eye. And this guy had, an arm, both legs, an eye.
Well, you see, it's placed way farther into the future when all of those parts have been,
That's true. You can get them on Radio Shack or whatever.
Yeah.
They're much cheaper now. But $6 Million Man. It was great. He actually fought Bigfoot. It was a robot Bigfoot, but he fought. You don't remember he fought Bigfoot? No. Oh, come on, hilarious. He was fought Andre the Giant.
Oh, right.
Dude, come on. I love this show. How much I love this show. Dude, him fighting Bigfoot was one of the best.
I don't remember.
This is how cheesy the show was.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But that kind of brings us.
Yeah, you might as well hit Bionic Woman, even though it's not
the
70s.
I mean, Bionic Woman was in the 80s, but it was like the spin-off.
It was a spin-off because they were both same program. Repaired them and everything like that.
Right, they showed up.
And they actually crossed over.
Oh, they did.
There was two made-for-TV movies where they were both together, Bionic Man and Bionic Woman.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so the Bionic Woman was the great thing about Bionic Woman was the special effects were a little bit better. I mean, obviously it was a few years later.
Right.
So, because in the old Bionic, $6 Million Man, you see him pick up a rock and chuck it, and it's totally paper mache looking rock.
Right.
And it looks, but then when Bionic Woman was out there, she'd be bending steel bars and stuff like that. And it would actually look,
crushed a tennis ball in her
hand. Yeah, crushed a tennis ball in her hand. Yeah, so it was pretty cool. Again, this is all just cyborgs, basically. Is that the whole, half robot, half human. I love these shows as a kid.
Yeah.
So we'll go on from there. Okay, since we've talked about the Bionic Woman, let's jump into the 80s now. Now, this is a time when we were me and Doug were kids.
Yeah.
We actually watched these shows. They came out. And some of them, like I said, some of them cross over. When I say they're 80s, some of them were started in the 70s.
Right.
But if I watched them on TV when they came out, I listened in that decade. So, for instance, The Incredible Hulk. Actually, that's not sci-fi. We won't even talk about that. Forget that one.
Mike can't help but mention The Incredible Hulk.
I snuck it in there. Incredible Hulk.
Every show he does.
Go see Thor Ragnarok. All right. Battlestar Galactica.
It's a really good movie.
Battlestar Galactica, that started in the 70s, rolled into the 80s.
Yeah.
Did you like the original Battlestar Galactica?
Love the original Battlestar Galactica. I would say up until the 90s, and probably even in the 90s, Starbuck was my favorite character on TV of all, probably of all time, up to that point. And he's still in my top 10.
Yeah.
Starbuck is amazing.
Yeah, nothing against Katie Sackhoff. But
she's amazing too.
But the original Starbuck
anybody with the name Starbuck has rocked. So
that's true. So have you? And obviously you've heard of the remake series.
Oh yeah.
Do you know anything about the original?
Very little. It's one of those that I want to watch, but again, I'm a completionist, so I need to start from the beginning and work my way through.
Yeah. And that's one that I don't think is on Netflix. I don't think you can get the old Battlestar.
Old Battlestar is hard to find.
I'm sure Cody has it.
Yeah, we'll have to find it. But it's a great series. It had, it was totally not as nearly as dark as the rebooted series.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're trying to find Earth, and then they actually had a second series spun off of it after they found Earth, which was horrible. It was really low budget, horrible.
It's called Galactica 1980.
Galactica 1980, yeah, and it's basically Apollo was the only one left of the original cast in it, I think.
And I actually think it was only a mini series. I don't think it was a full length series because it only went for 1 year. It's only listed as 1 year.
Got canceled after 1 year. But
I don't know.
It didn't last very long.
Because it was pretty bad.
It was not.
They had super children.
They had super children. Oh wow, why'd you remember that? Now I'm starting to remember it. I don't want to remember that show.
The only scene I can remember from that whole show is one of the super kids hitting a baseball into the dirt. Yeah. Burying it in the dirt. I'm like, that's the only thing I can remember from that show. It was that bad. I pretty much just blocked it.
See, that's why you count yourselves lucky, kids, for all the sci-fi stuff you got nowadays.
Yeah.
All right.
There's still crappy stuff.
There is still crappy stuff. We'll get into that. All right, let's talk about your rule breaker, V.
V. Yeah, I actually, because it's so good, I forgot it was a miniseries. Actually.
Have you heard of V, Kirsten?
I've not. What is it about?
V for Visitor.
V for Visitor.
Oh, okay.
It's where the lizard people come and take over. Basically,
not exactly, but yes.
Yeah. We find out the lizard people. They're actually coming. They look like us, but they're actually wearing skin. They're actually lizards underneath.
Oh, okay.
They come in big round ships that kind of look like the ships from Independence Day.
Yeah.
Sure.
They make peaceful contact. They say they're going to help us. And they're basically trying to eat us, really.
Well, yeah, they're trying to. Yeah,
they come here for food.
Yeah, they come here in peace, whatever. But there's a secret agenda, and people are finding out about that they're secretly lizards, and
and there's a resistance.
There's a resistance to them, and then basically some of their own people kind of turn on them, kind of thing.
Okay.
Like I remember Robert Englund. I remember Freddy Krueger was an alien that actually turned the good side. Was good with the good guys.
Yep.
See, now I'm taking what you're telling me, and I'm putting it into the movie V for Vendetta, and it's making a very hilarious combination in my head.
Yeah.
Where you see the Great Britain Parliament building and lots of big round saucers flying down.
Not quite. This was not actually, it's not that good. It's V for Vendetta, but it is. It was. I mean, as a kid, I remember one scene when I was a kid where they were like someplace where the guy's hand got frozen and then his hand shattered or whatever. And then I remember that freaking me out as a kid watching the guy, but lizards could handle the cold, so they went down and rescued him or whatever, and they brought him out of the cold and his hand shattered. Anyway.
Honestly,
creepy
this sounds terrifying.
It was actually,
especially the scene where one of the lieutenants bites the head off of a parakeet.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, no.
Because they're lizards.
That.
Yeah. So she's all like, honk.
Oh, yeah. Or the main woman, she she eat mice. Watch her dislocate her jaw like a snake and then drop a mouse down it.
Either. Yeah.
Yeah, no. There was some scary stuff, especially if as a kid watching it. But they also did a remake of that too. That's another one that got rebooted.
Was it good?
Was it?
Yeah, I remember it was V. Apparently, I don't know. I didn't watch it, so that tells you, and it didn't last very long. So that gives you an indication of how good it was.
I would like to see something like that made today.
Yeah,
I think that would be really good and very creepy. I think it'd fit the. Yeah,
the leader of the aliens in the new one, she had short hair. I could picture her, and I don't remember anything else about the show, so obviously I didn't watch it. So all right, there we go. The original one was good. All right, now let's move on to something a little kind of goofy. Again, there was slim pickings for sci-fi. When we talk about sci-fi, pure sci-fi movies,
Shows.
Sorry, not movies. TV shows. 90s is where it's at. 80s and below. Let's see here. Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future. You remember this show?
Yeah, this was on like Saturday mornings like a cartoon, although it was live action.
Yes.
It was one of, if not the first show that used massive amounts of computer-generated images in the show. So all of the weapons were computer animated and stuff like that. It's the only reason I included it on this list, because it was a horrible show. It was not good at all, it was groundbreaking.
Wasn't it a tie-in to like a laser tag kind of toy? They used it to sell? I think it was. I think it was like a tie-in to like, I remember laser tag was big in the 80s. I was big in laser tag. But then they had like whatever their competitor was, other light gun toy, was they had Captain Power was their way of selling it.
Oh, okay.
So Captain Power was there, whatever. I can't remember what else. I played laser tag, so I don't know what the other one was. We had two light gun things in the 80s.
Got it.
But yeah, I remember it being super cheesy.
Can I interrupt? It worked on the TV.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Shane.
You shot the TV with the gun.
You shot
they shot you first. You lost.
Yeah, so it would set off your thing, whatever on the TV.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I remember when you bought that set, it came with a DVD. Yeah, it didn't work half the time.
Oh.
So it came with a DVD,
Kinda like the Power Glove?
a VHS tape that you played, and it had the same kind of. Yeah. All right. So yeah, it was a toy tie-in, but I don't know. I watched it, even though even back then I knew it was cheesy.
Yeah.
I watched it. All right. Now rounding out the 80s with probably the best. This is one of the highlights of sci-fi television.
Yeah.
Star Trek: The Next Generation. So this is the high watermark for Star Trek series, right? I mean, there's an argument for Deep Space Nine. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But as far as the majority of the people are concerned, Star Trek: The Next Generation is Star Trek.
Especially after probably season 3 or 3 and on. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Early
the first season or two were...
First season 2 of every Star Trek sucked.
Yeah.
Let's get that out of the way right now. This is back in the day when you can actually have 1 or 2 seasons of shitty television and you'd still continue. Yeah. Nowadays, you get 1 shitty season and you're done. Right?
You get a crappy pilot, you're done.
Yeah, crappy pilot, you're done. Back in the day, if Star Trek had to rely on a good pilot or a good first season, we wouldn't have any Star Trek shows.
Yeah.
Because they were all pretty bad starting out. But yeah, Next Generation was, Star Trek for a lot of people. It was, I mean, some say it was one of the best. It's,
It's most iconic.
It's most iconic.
That's whenever, at least I think of it, Star Trek, that's where I think too.
Yeah.
If you are under 40, Next Generation is Star Trek for you.
Yes.
Yeah. It is highly unlikely that you knew a whole lot about the original series.
And if you're nerds like us, we were fans of Star Trek before Next Generation. But yeah, for a lot of people that.
But when Next Generation came out, it was like, oh yes, the new Star Trek.
New Star Trek, yes.
Because we had just seen the Star Trek the Motion Picture. I think came out in 1980.
Yeah.
I don't think Wrath of Khan came
Search for
out?
Spock. Actually, by the time it was Star Trek 5 was filming coincided with Next Generation.
So yeah, we'd had a bunch of movies, but hadn't had any Star Trek series for a long time. So this was super exciting.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart, Michael Dorn. I mean, all these guys were. I mean, Jonathan Frakes,
Will Wheaton.
Will Wheaton. Yes, Generation gave us Will Wheaton, folks. Could thank Next Generation for that. He's like geek royalty now.
Yeah,
he is.
I mean,
whatever you thought of Wesley.
Sorry.
Yeah, sure. Some people point to the seminal coming of age story of Stand By Me as Will Wheaton's big debut, but hell with that. No one remembers him from that. They remember him from Next Generation. Forget that Oscar movie. That's Next Generation. Yeah. But Data, I think, was probably still one of my favorite Star Trek characters out of any of the series.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
yeah.
Yours too, Doug. You dressed up for years.
We did how to host a murder mystery Star Trek edition, and I dressed up as Data for it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Whenever we dressed up, I was Worf, he was Data. Pretty much.
But did you dress up as Data as Sherlock Holmes?
No,
he did not. He should have.
Yeah.
All right. So Next Generation. That's pretty much the, it for the 80s. I mean, it rolled into the 90s too. But
speaking of 90s, the golden age of sci-fi.
Golden age of this is an argument for genre TV.
Yeah.
When I was going through this list, I didn't realize how many of these shows I loved, like seminal shows, came out in the 90s, and not just for sci-fi. We're going to talk about the sci-fi ones today, but in
everything.
In everything.
Yeah. You can make. I would make the argument that there are a lot of shows now that were better. They're better acted, better produced, but not necessarily better stories.
Yeah.
So,
right.
And we'll, talk about each of those as we get to them.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to go into all of them, but I mean, like I
said,
Sci-Fi
is the place where the current day is weak versus the 90s and early 2000s.
Right. Nowadays, they got superhero movies, TV better than it did back in the day, but Sci-Fi was, I mean, it's going to be hard to beat the 90s for any of these. I mean, this is the even outside of sci-fi, this is the decade that brought us Buffy the Vampire Slayer, X-Files, Quantum Leap. I mean, Babylon 5. So, I mean, there's going to be, like, this is the decade that we're...
Yeah. This has some of my favorite shows of all time.
Right.
In it.
And, true. And which is odd because these were our college years, so this is where, I don't remember a whole lot of the 90s. I can tell you key events that happened, I just couldn't put them in chronological order. I remember I partied a lot, and then I graduated, and they wouldn't let me come back to college, so. All right, let's jump into it with Babylon 5. Doug, why don't you tell me about Babylon 5? First off, Kristen, have you heard of Babylon 5?
Maybe. Tell me what it's about, and I'll tell you if it sounds familiar.
It's set on a space station called Babylon 5 because the previous 4 Babylon stations mysteriously blew up or vanished.
Sure.
Yeah. It's a meeting place between all of the spacefaring races, and it's set roughly like 300 years in the future. So we've figured out how to use, jump gate technology to travel to various places.
Sure.
We didn't figure it out. We learned it from one of the other races. I'm not going to get into all of the races, but basically, as the show progresses, you find out that we're getting towards the end of a cycle where these 2 ancient alien races kind of duke it out for influence over the younger races.
Oh, okay. And
so the story is all about how one of the characters breaks that cycle and gets finishes off that thing.
Sure.
So
it's
Bruce Boxleitner stars in it.
Yeah, that's what I'll say about it. Doug is the reason why I watched this, because I want to point out there's basically 2 series here, right? They started this series with a different captain, right?
Yeah.
That got canceled. All right, the original series.
Well, not canceled. They had to replace a bunch of people.
They took a year off. I mean, it was not exactly canceled, but we thought it was dead, right?
Okay.
And then they can bring it back with Tron himself playing, the captain. And
I prefer to think of him as Scarecrow.
Bruce Boxleitner. So he came back, and I watched the original first year of the series with the first captain, and I was like, this is kind of not good, right? And then Doug is the one who convinced me to give it a second try, and I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't care about this. And then I watched it. I'm like, oh man! And again, one of my favorite characters in all of sci-fi, Garibaldi. It was in this. I mean, this was a great series. It was one of the first episodic ones. Where
it's a big story from beginning to end. Year 1 to year 5. It was always intended to be a 5-year story. It would be a complete arc. Everything that happened before was important to what happens in the story later.
Sure.
There's a few episodes that are just character development episodes that don't necessarily impact future episodes, but usually there's some piece of information you need for further on.
Right. It was one of the first TV series like this you had to watch in order.
Yeah.
In order to get it. I mean, I do that a lot now, but back then it was.
Yeah. It was almost unheard of back then.
Because back then we had the way TV was serialized. You never knew what was going to air first. They couldn't guarantee it.
Oh, okay.
They'd get the TV shows to the stations would be like, would air them when they could or whatever, so they air them out of order. So that's why they developed, like Star Trek and all these were developed to where you could show them out of order. It didn't matter.
Sure.
Right. That's why it didn't really matter. So this is one of the first ones that actually did this. Now, like they're all like this now.
Right.
Pretty much. But yeah, Babylon 5.
And it got to the point where the guy who created it, J. Michael Straczynski, wrote almost every episode from season 3 on. He wrote, directed most of them, and produced the show himself.
That's impressive.
Yeah, Straczynski. That name sounds familiar, Doug. What does he do now?
Writes comics.
Writes comics now. Yeah.
Well, he's funny because he got his start on like Murder, She Wrote and stuff like that, and television shows. But yeah, he's awesome to sci-fi superhero stuff.
Yeah. All right, because Babylon 5 was so good, all right, it elevated other shows around it, right? So like we got our first spin-off Star Trek, Deep Space Nine.
Right.
Right. This is the first time Star Trek did not take place on the Enterprise.
Right.
It was on a space station. Right. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
So basically,
and they came out one right after the other. Right. Like Deep Space Nine came out right after Babylon.
Right after Babylon 5. Right. They had a stable wormhole. And, how it was the center of all this galactic conflict. Right. Very familiar. Now, and because again, it's Star Trek, so the first 2 seasons of Deep Space Nine kind of sucked. And everyone's like, oh, this spinoff's gonna, not gonna work, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But then it took a major cue from Babylon 5 in that it became episodic, right? And they got into a war, right? A big conflict, just like Babylon 5. So they kind of mirrored each other, right? And the stories got really good. For a while there, it was like, it was hard pressed to decide which writing was better, the writing on Babylon 5 or the writing on Deep Space Nine. And Deep Space Nine, for a lot of people, it's their favorite Star Trek series, right? I mean, a lot of people, Next Generation is Star Trek for them, but when you talk about what is the best Star Trek series, Deep Space Nine's in there in that discussion. There's an argument to be made for it. I'm on the side that I think Deep Space Nine is one of the better. I don't know if I could say it's the best, but it's right up there, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, Doug. What I know you're a huge Babylon 5. I'm going to make you pick between Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5.
Oh, Babylon 5 all the time. All the
I knew it. Is there any chance that Doug's not going to pick Babylon 5?
I mean, Deep Space Nine got really good with the war against the Jem'Hadar and stuff.
Dominion, yeah.
Yeah, the Dominion War. Those 2 or 3 seasons were really good, but I would never say the writing was as good. This storytelling was probably close, but I don't think the writing was as good. But no, I would always pick Babylon 5. I would put those seasons, the Dominion War seasons, as probably some of the best Star Trek ever. Yeah. Right up there with the season with Picard becoming a Borg. I forget, 3 or 4. I can't remember which season that was. That's one of the best. Yeah, the 3rd season of Star Trek ended on a season finale with Picard becoming a Borg, and you're like, oh, what's going on with this series? I mean, it's really good. Like I said, 90s was a great time to be sci-fi nerd. Yeah, definitely.
The TV out there was great. I don't know. I mean, I think I like them both. I think I got to pick Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine is the only Star Trek series that I went back in the last 10 years or so and watched the series all the way through from beginning to end again. And I've watched other episodes. Now
that it's on Netflix, I tried to do that, and I'm getting bogged down in the first 3 seasons.
Yeah, if you get through
season 3 going, come on.
Season 4 and on, then it gets to be like binge worthy. You're like, oh, okay, I got to watch the rest of this. All right, so you're a ways away. It seems like you want to get through the first season, then Next Generation, before you get to Babylon 5 or Deep Space Nine.
Skip to Babylon 5.
You're in
because you don't need any Star Trek for that.
Yeah. You don't. You just jump right into that. All right. So, also, I covered it back up again. In the 90s, we had...
Go through some of the ones that were like the lesser.
Okay. Well, lesser? Well, we'll start with Sequest, DSV. There's a lesser for you.
It was, but I loved it. It was great.
I can tell you the only Sequest I ever watched was what you made me watch. You gotta watch this episode. If you're not hooked for this episode, I'm like, I'm not hooked. It's Star Trek underwater instead of in space.
It is kind of.
There was a show on
And not that
Adult
good.
Swim that was based with the Yellow Submarine.
The-
I forget what it was called. Sea Lab.
Sea Lab 2020.
Yeah. Is
yeah.
that basically a parody of, or the,
That's
that is
basically a parody of
okay.
Sequest, yes. Exactly. There you got it. All right. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Only not as funny or as good. All right. We'll talk about the going into the not so good, and this is going to be controversial because a lot of people love this show. But the third spin-off of Star Trek was Voyager, right? Again, not on the Enterprise. It was on a brand new ship. The story behind Voyager is, as where Deep Space Nine had the first black captain, right, for Star Trek. It was the first female captain for Star Trek and Voyager. And they were lost on the other side of the galaxy. So basically the whole plot of this is these two separate crews were forced to team up together. One was like a kind of
Rebels.
rebel. They were rebels, right?
The Maquis.
The Maquis, yeah. So I'll get into the background. They were against the Federation. Then there was the Federation, the main one. Anyway, both of them get stranded and have to work together. So they have integrate these two crews with two different ideals, and they have to find their way back at maximum warp, which they can't sustain. It would take them like 80 years to get home.
Sure.
Right. So that's their story, is all the adventures they have trying to get back into our space, or trying to shorten the trip, and foraging for supplies. The one thing that I take away from Voyager was, and not that I had any, I had some great characters. The Doctor was great. Lana Torres was great.
It got good towards the end.
Yeah, I heard it.
Really
I just couldn't. The early seasons were so bad that I just couldn't. I don't know. The biggest problem was the inconsistencies. Like when they got stranded over there, just to give you an idea, as an example,
Sure.
they did an inventory in a pilot episode, and they had 38 photon torpedoes, right? So they have these phasers and the lasers on the ships.
Right.
Photon torpedoes are actually physical torpedoes they had to load, and they're the really devastating ones, right?
Okay.
They had 38. By the time the series was done, they fired 96.
Oh my God.
Like in the early episodes, they kept talking about like, oh, we need to be careful. We got to conserve. We can't get any more of these. We're running out. By the end of it, their favorite phrase was "full spread." Photon torpedoes, full spread.
Oh my God.
So there was 96, and those were just the ones that we could physically see being fired, or that we could, by dialogue, confirm were fired. There were several ship fights that you didn't see the whole fight.
Oh, okay.
They could have fired more than that.
Right.
Yeah.
But the ones they could actually physically confirm, 96 of their 38 torpedoes. And the same thing with shuttlecraft. Like this was a smaller ship than Star Trek Next Generation had what's called a Galaxy class starship, which is a big ship. It had 6 shuttlecraft, 4 in rotation and 2 in storage. This smaller ship went through 15 shuttlecraft, plus had enough parts to build 2 Delta Flyers, which were their special shuttlecraft that they built. I don't know where. I don't know where they got all this. They're all talking about not having enough parts. They need to go on replicator rations, and people couldn't just replicate what they wanted anymore because they were low on power.
Right.
But yet they had enough parts to build, to have 15 shuttlecraft. But yeah, it was like one of those weird things. So they had a great concept to begin with, but I don't know.
But didn't stick to their rules.
What do you think, Doug?
Like I said, Voyager got good. It started off, I'd say, for 3 or 4 years. For 3.5 years, it wasn't good. And I actually gave it up, and I stopped watching. I forget who told me it had gotten good again, so I picked it back up once they had kind of encountered the Borg. They had 7 of the 9 as part of the crew. They had started having better crew relationships. Like Tom Paris and B'Elanna Torres they're putting together their relationship and stuff. They actually got good. The storytelling got good. They also took from Babylon 5 and had an alien race that looked just like one of the alien races on Babylon 5. So it got good, but it started off very weak.
Yeah, Curtis, just to give you an idea of how they revamped the show. They revamped the show by adding 7 of 9, which is basically a big-breasted woman in a skin-tight outfit in high heels in space. Literally, that's what she wore, high heels. With a few cyborg parts on her. Yeah.
I need to watch it.
Right, I have a real question.
Yes.
And it's probably a real dumb question. All right, so nowadays you've got seasons that, it's iffy. Sometimes you can get 2 seasons out of a year, or sometimes you get 1 season out of a year. Before, we were jutting out TV shows left and right,
Yeah.
like in 70s, 80s, were seasons done up by year or like 2 parts of the year? Or
No, yeah, there was no mid-season break.
Yeah, there's no break.
It was 22 to 24 episodes is a typical season.
Yeah.
Actually, no, a lot of times they would take a short break during the summer.
During the holidays. Or
Or
they take
over
a
the
break during the
holidays.
holidays.
Because usually TV would start in the
spring.
fall and go into the spring, and then you'd have reruns during the summer until it came back the next year.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we didn't split it up. Now they try and squeeze every dollar out of the the marketing they can.
Right.
Yeah. All right, moving on to more stuff from. I will say one last thing I want to say about Voyager, just real quick.
Yeah.
Before you defend the later seasons, Doug, they did have an episode where 7 of 9 wrestled the Rock in a space arena.
Like The
forgot
Rock
about that.
Johnson?
Like
yes,
the
Dwayne
Rock.
The Rock Johnson.
This is back during the NWO, the big, the sponsor was one of the sponsors. But they had the Rock on. Basically, he had like a little nose ridge, but other than that, he looked like the Rock. He even like
he did the rock bottom.
he did the Rock bottom. He used his own wrestling move on her.
That's amazing.
Yes.
It was awesome. Pretty awesome. I'll watch anything The Rock's on.
Coming right at ya.
Okay, so in the 90s, we also got, like I said, there's a ton of stuff in the 90s. Space Above and Beyond, I didn't really watch that, did you?
I did, but I can't really tell you much about it other than it was like they were Marine
Like
fighter
pilots
pilots
in space.
kind of like a la Enemy Mine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
That kind of conflict and that kind of, crew of fighter pilots aboard a ship.
And if
You
you want to know how
want to
Enemy
carry-
Mine turned out, see our Does It Hold Up video.
Yes.
Or don't.
But
Or don't.
this has the...
See the video, don't see Enemy Mine.
yeah,
yeah.
that. Do that.
Probably my second favorite sci-fi series, maybe of all time, Stargate SG-1 was during this time.
Stargate SG-1.
Love that.
All right.
That was probably the...
Now,
man,
have you
that
heard
was
of
so
Stargate SG-1?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's a little movie in the 90s that kind of came out of nowhere, took everybody by surprise, the Stargate, which was actually a fairly, well, it wasn't low budget, but it was a very modest budget sci-fi movie that no one expected. It wasn't like, at the time, they were putting all these big blockbusters out. And it turned out, it was a really great movie. It had Kurt Russell in it, first off, so that it's 2 steps up right there, starring Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
But it was a really great movie about aliens and ancient Egypt and all of that. And then they turned into a series, Stargate SG-1, which they replaced Kurt Russell. And if you're going to replace Kurt Russell, doing it with MacGyver is a good choice.
Yeah.
So
Although there was a lot of concerns that could he do the role.
could do the role, yeah. But yeah, MacGyver could pull it off. He had enough. Yeah.
It's MacGyver.
Richard
Come on
Dean
now.
Anderson.
Richard Dean Anderson, man, he had enough, smirk, and he was
Yeah.
able to. Yeah, SG-1, and it spawned off several series after that.
Yeah.
And
And there's one
And there's
in
one in
production
development
now.
right now. Yeah, so
It's
this is
going to be
how-
a streaming one. You stream it from their website. You have to buy a subscription,
Yeah,
which I'm seriously considering doing because it sounds really cool.
Yeah.
yeah. I
So-
figured you'd be in for
Yeah.
Stargate.
I love Stargate.
After
stuff.
the first one, I watched Stargate SG-1 all the way through because it was such a good series. I watched a little bit of Atlantis, which was the first spin-off. The only thing that stands out about Atlantis is it has Aquaman in it as one of his first roles.
Yeah. he's good. It was, I think every bit as good as the SG-1. Some people didn't like it that much, but I thought it was really good.
I like SG-1.
Yeah.
All right.
Stargate Universe was good,
Yeah, Stargate.
but got cut off too soon.
It did. I will say Stargate Universe was good.
It was one of those. It suffered from and a lot of these in the 2000s. We'll get into the 2000s. Sci-fi kind of fell off the map.
It did.
Nothing came out in the once the 2000s started wearing on.
Yeah.
I guess there was sci-fi fatigue or something because
90s
there
was the
hardly
golden
anything.
age, coming off the 90s where they had like all these great sci-fi shows.
Yeah, and I think
we're
the
not
universe suffered from that.
And we're not even touching ones like for instance, like X-Files and stuff like that, because those fall into a different category for us.
Right,
The
yeah.
suspense and kind of horror kind of. But
Well, they
Outer
don't do it
Limits
all.
and X-Files and all those still fell in that same genre.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to talk about it in today's show, but that's still
Right.
Well, how do you follow up by all of those? Like,
yeah, really. How do you follow those
It's been
up?
made. It's been
Yeah.
made well. So what do you do after that?
That's true. All right, let's a few more in the 90s. Farscape. Did you watch Farscape?
No,
Have you heard anything about Farscape?
I heard a lot of people really liked it, but I haven't seen it.
Kirsten, no?
I feel like I've seen a book with the title Farscape on it.
Okay, moving on. We're going to about Farscape. I like Farscape.
Space Muppets.
Yeah, it had some Muppets in it, maybe. All right, moving
Maybe.
on. Alien Nation. Again, this is another one based off of a movie.
Yeah.
Based where aliens have kind of integrated in society.
Yeah, that was a buddy cop.
It's
movie,
a buddy cop
right?
show. It's what I don't know if you see on Netflix coming out the Will Smith fantasy one. What's it called? Where he's like teaming up with an orc.
Right. Yeah.
That it looks exactly like Alien Nation. Alien Nation's where it had an alien guy team up with a cop. In the movie, it was James Caan was the human cop. I forget who the actor was in the TV series.
I don't know.
But so it was kind of like it was a buddy cop kind of thing, right? And they had two different worlds, and it looks exactly like what they're doing. They're trying to do with that. I forget the Netflix series that's coming out. Anyway, Alien Nation. I watched the movie and I watched part of the series, but I don't really remember much about it. What about you?
No, I don't remember much about it. I think I caught an episode here and there. I didn't watch it regularly.
Kirsten, what about you?
I've not heard anything about this one.
Movie or TV series?
No.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll follow that one up with Does It Hold Up? Alien Nation. That was an 80s movie. All right, Sliders now. Sliders, I love this series, and I can't tell you exactly why. I mean, it was like the fat kid from Stand By Me is the star. Only he's not fat anymore. He's actually kind of
got Sala from
It's got
Indiana
Sala
Jones
from
movies.
Indiana Jones. We only know these actors from what other better things they've been in.
John Rhys Davies.
John Rhys Davies.
Yeah. He's the only person whose name I remember from that show.
Yeah, and basically the whole concept behind this. Have you heard anything about it, Kirsten? All right. So, concept behind this is,
John Rhys Davies is the scientist, right?
no, actually, well, he's the kid's the one who found the fat kid from Stand By Me is the one who invented basically a portal to another dimension, right? So they start traveling through another. So him, his girlfriend, John Rhys Davies is a professor, right? And then this performer, who I don't know I can't remember how he ended up in it. Anyway, the four of them went through, but the problem is because there's infinite number of dimensions.
Yeah.
He couldn't get back.
Sure.
They just keep going to
They
alternate
just kept going to alternate
Okay.
Earths. So they keep going to alternate Earths. They get close to what almost everything was perfect, and then they
Sure.
find one thing that's off about it. So the whole series, and it lasted for like 5 seasons, was them just trying to get back to their dimension.
I'd
Right? So it's
watch
like
that.
so like lost in
Yeah.
sort of space or lost in dimensions. And so every episode, and it took them like every time they went, they had to spend a day in whatever dimension they were at. So they couldn't
Sure.
just like jump out real quick.
Right.
So they got stuck in someplace shitty.
Yeah,
they
so
were stuck there
deal
they had
with
to
it.
deal with it for a day.
Well, they had to be there until the timer counted down. It was always random.
It was always random, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Shane. He remembered this. Yeah, there's a timer you had to count down on it, and it was always random. So they were there for, like, oh, we're here for 4 days or whatever it is.
Sure.
So, yeah, it was a good series.
Very similar to that
Very similar to the Sliders.
is Quantum Leap.
Quantum Leap. Now, Quantum Leap is probably one of the best sci-fi TV shows ever.
Yeah.
I would say. Have you heard of Quantum Leap?
I've not.
Ah, okay.
Dean Stockwell and Captain from Enterprise.
Captain
his
Archer.
name. Yeah.
Folks, we don't believe in research on this podcast.
Why can't I think of his name right now? Just
I need a
Scott
laptop.
Bakula. Scott
so I can
Bakula.
Scott
just-
Bakula. That's it.
Yeah, Scott Bakula and Dean Stockwell. And basically, like Sliders, this guy, they developed this thing they call him quantum leaping.
Sure.
And he could go backwards and forwards in time, in his lifetime.
Okay.
But he physically wouldn't go. He'd inhabit somebody else's body.
Well, there was an accident, so,
Yeah, so he got stuck.
He had to just kind of leap and hope, and
Right.
so the whole show is him leaping back into other people's bodies in
Okay.
some random situation,
Sure.
and he couldn't leave until he figured out what was wrong with.
There's
their
also
situation.
kind of like a supernatural element to it, not just science, because it was like where there was like another like a higher power, like he said, like God's work. He's there for a reason. He has to fix somebody's
Sure.
life or something like that, you
Yeah.
know. And before he could leap again. And the funny part about it is because it was him. He played whoever he leaped into.
Right.
But if you looked in a mirror, he'd see like if he was in a woman's body.
Oh, okay.
It'd be him in a dress for the whole episode.
Sure.
Right? If you looked in a mirror, he'd see what he really looked like. But
One episode, he inhabited a kid with Down syndrome.
yeah.
Oh.
So it had all kinds of adventures, jumping in different bodies.
Right.
And then Dean Stockwell's character, he was a hologram, so he basically was in his head, basically.
Yeah.
Well, he was actually in his time frame. He's
his
like
time.
his assistant or something
Yeah.
like that. And he'd walk into this room where he could project himself as a hologram only he could see.
Only he could see
and
himself.
talk to him.
Yeah.
And let him know the background of where he's at. Oh, you're in
Okay.
1950s Georgia.
Sure.
Well, and the reason they had the information is because the big guy was a computer who was trying to calculate how to get him back.
How to get him back? Yeah, they're trying to calculate what you need to do, and
So he had to fix the timeline of where he stopped.
you can totally tell this is '90s because it's not done today. If it was done today, it'd be a lot easier for him because he had the internet and he could look up things
Right.
so much quicker.
Right.
Back then, he had to do research. All right, we got to go figure out where you're at and
Right.
what you need to do here and who these people are.
Pull out the encyclopedias.
Well, yeah, exactly. What's going on? Quantum Leap, it was great. Then there was several other. I mean, you could throw Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. in there. Not necessarily a good show, but it
Funny. Just barely a sci-fi.
barely a sci-fi, but very funny. But yeah, I mean, there are several other things in there. Earth Final Conflict. Did we mention that?
No.
Okay, better not. Better left unsaid.
Yeah.
The better. Earth Final Conflict wasn't that great. But other than that, there was a ton, like I said, a glut of sci-fi TV in the 90s. And then you hit the early 2000s, the
That's
aughts.
why there was a ton of sci-fi in the 90s.
Why is that?
That's when we got the sci-fi channel.
That's true. We did get the Sci-Fi Channel in the
They picked
90s.
up they picked up Quantum Leap later, but they picked up Sliders and Stargate actually won.
For those of you who can't hear, Shane's off mic shouting nonsense at us about sci-fi television. Mentioning the Sci-Fi Channel, Sci-Fi Channel did come out in the 90s.
Well, they saved two of the
That's-
series on the list.
That's back when it was Sci-Fi, not the SciFi channel
Yeah.
that it is now.
Siffy.
The one that makes the least amount of sense for
Syphilis.
rebranding. All right, so in the early aughts, we got, again, one of the best sci-fi shows ever. We mentioned it, Firefly.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Kirsten, why don't you tell us a little about this, because this was your first.
So, this one, you could say that he is a space cowboy of sorts.
He is a space cowboy. Exactly. Call him Maurice, because he's a straight-up space cowboy.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially the story. They go
Yeah.
around, they pick up packages, deliver goods.
Smuggle stuff.
Yeah.
Smuggle stuff.
Yeah.
Including a girl who's being hunted by the government.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it had everything you wanted. I mean, the great.
I don't understand why it only made 14 episodes
Yeah.
before it got canceled.
Yeah.
I don't get it. It was so good.
No one.
That's the problem. The 2000s were just a bad time for sci-fi.
Definitely.
There just wasn't enough interest or something. I don't
You
know.
know, all right. You know what I didn't watch it when it first came out either. I didn't catch it till after it got canceled. And the reason why I got a stupid reason why is the first officer on Firefly was in another sci-fi show that we didn't mention in the 90s, Cleopatra 2099 or something like that. It was done by the same people who did Hercules and Xena and all those. But it was a sci-fi one, right?
Okay.
And it was so god awful that I'm like, okay, we didn't even mention it on this podcast. I didn't.
Well, we have now.
We have now. I guess we did. Now it's mentioned. And I saw her in it, and I'm like, I thought that was like done by the same people or whatever. I'm like, oh, now they're getting desperate. All right, now they're cowboys in space. I don't care.
Right.
I'm not watching it. I didn't realize, at the time, I didn't know who Josh Whedon was. I didn't know he was behind Buffy the Vampire Slayer and all that stuff. And then, so like a year after it was canceled, that's when I finally
Right.
got into it. And I'm like,
Sure.
oh my God, what is this? Why wouldn't I support this? And I think a lot of people, it was just bad timing.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was 10 years before its time.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, this
definitely.
show would kill.
Yeah.
It does. It gets talked about
Yes.
constantly to this day about how it needs to pick up on another season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And here's the thing: it's characterization. It's had some of the best characters. Obviously, Josh Whedon can write characters. You write,
Yeah.
I don't know. This is near perfect genre television. Firefly.
Definitely.
Not enough to be said about it. On the other hand, in the early aughts, we got Andromeda, which was also a spinoff. Actually, not a spinoff from the
Spin-off from the career
of Hercules. Kevin Sorbo,
Yeah.
who was great in Hercules, by the way. I love Kevin Sorbo. Even though he was good in Cole the Conqueror, even though people hated that movie too. Andromeda, which is basically budget Star Trek,
Yeah.
and it was just a low budget sci-fi show. No one saw it, so we don't need to really go into it here. It starred Kevin Sorbo. It
Yeah.
wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. All right. Also, early aughts, we got the return of Doctor Who. Right now, so this is for Doug and I. We had Doctor Who back in the day.
Yeah, which I didn't watch except when it was on at the comic book store.
Yeah.
You know, one of the guys, the assistant manager, was like super fan for Doctor Who, so he'd play it on the TV, VCR all the time. But that was the only thing I got, Doctor Who.
I watched Tom Baker, because Tom Baker was a Doctor Who when I first started watching it, right? And he'll always be Doctor Who for me. And then I watched through 2 other doctors past him to the asshole doctor, like Dr. Seven, who was with the curly hair, and I was just kind of like in the weird outfit. I'm like, I don't know. I didn't watch any of the rest of it that way. But I watched the new Doctor Who, and Eccleston brought it back in early odds. Yeah. And David Tennant, I watched through David Tennant, and then after David Tennant left, he was such a good Doctor Who that I didn't even care about Matt Smith. I'm like, whatever. I didn't watch any Matt Smith. Who was a lot of people's favorite, was Matt Smith. I never watched him, Matt Smith. I watched him in a few episodes here and there, and I'm sure he was good. I just, after David Tennant, it was hard for me to stick with the series. And I watched a little bit of Capaldi, the current Doctor.
Oh, he's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I like that turn there, because mainly my daughter was into it. We watched it here and there. But other than that, I mean, were you a Doctor Who fan, Kirsten?
I love Doctor Who.
Ah.
My friends used to talk about it all the time, and then I finally was like, okay, what is this about? Sat down and started from the ninth Doctor, worked my way up. And just like you, my first Doctor was Eccleston, so he will always be my Doctor.
Yeah. Only one season, but he was great.
Oh, it was so good. Unpopular opinion, I thought that David Tennant was okay Doctor.
Oh.
I loved Matt Smith. I thought that he was playful and perfect. And then we got into Capaldi, and I still feel that was a good turn, because we went from a very good, he was very goofy. He had gotten to a point in the story where it was so much. He had abandoned all of his responsibilities. He needed to get back to who he was, get serious, and that's when Capaldi came in.
Capaldi was a throwback to some of the early Doctors, the very serious, kind of dark, kind of more alien than, Alien Doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doctor Who is big. Did you watch any of the new stuff, Doug? Nope.
None of the new stuff.
Man, you're missing out, man.
Here's the thing: I am somewhat of a completionist too, and I was not willing to go back and watch all the old stuff to catch up with the new stuff. So I was like, this is just going to be something I don't get into. Yeah. Because
I would recommend starting from 9, because the break between 8 and 9 was so exorbitant that it's pretty much its own series at this point.
If you're going to starting off with the Ninth Doctor.
Yeah.
Is perfectly fine, because you don't need any of the other stuff behind it.
Right.
There's a few throwback, bring some characters from the old series and that, but you don't need to know all that stuff.
Right.
Start with Eccleston, moving on,
yeah,
and you'll be good. Although still, that's another 10 years of show to watch there.
Sure, yeah.
All right. And while we didn't have a lot of sci-fi in the early aughts, we had some good ones. Like I said, Doctor Who, Firefly, and then the reboot of Battlestar Galactica. We also had Caprica, the spinoff, which wasn't good, but still, Battlestar for 3 seasons. That was some of the best TV, best sci-fi on TV.
Yeah, it was.
And then we hit season amazing. 4.
They just
and a writer's strike.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if it was the writer's strike or these guys just didn't have a good idea of how to end the show, but it was 3 amazing years and then 2 basically crap.
3.5 years. I'll say right until the jump forward in time in season 4. Right before that, it was good, and then after that, it just kind of went downhill.
Yeah, and there were some elements of the story in season 4 and 5 that were good.
Yeah,
and a lot of good acting, but just the story overall was just got dumb. You're just like, this doesn't make any sense. This is just stupid.
How about you, Kirsten? Did you follow Battlestar Galactica?
I did not. I have a really stupid question.
Okay.
You're going to laugh at me for this. What is the difference between Battlestar and Stargate? Are they completely different shows? Because I mix them up all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Stargate is what?
It's set on modern day Earth.
Yeah, okay. Stargate is modern day, maybe slightly future, because they got, no, they just have access to that alien technology they found and develop stuff. Yeah. But yeah, they're modern day Earth.
Okay.
And Stargate is where they find gateways.
Yeah, and for much of this series, they don't go into space until they learn from an alien race how to build spaceships.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So for 5 years, they're walking
on Earth,
through this circular gate to other planets.
So they travel through a gateway. Battlestar Galactica is way in the past,
And they're aliens.
They're not.
Oh.
Well,
They look like humans.
They're us. And they're trying to find this fabled place called Earth.
Well, this new series is way in the past.
Sure.
Well, the first one wasn't way in the past.
It was
they were
still trying to
find,
but they were super.
They were trying to
advanced.
find Earth. That's why they have the spin-off Battlestar Galactica 1980, is where they actually find Earth in the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. In the new series, spoiler, I guess, their home was destroyed by Cylons, these robots they created.
Yeah.
And they're trying to find a new home, and Earth is where they end up, right? And they're basically we evolved from them, basically.
Okay.
They're humans, but they're not from Earth.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was amazing. If you're into sci-fi TV at all, you should check out Battlestar Galactica, just because it was the first 3 seasons were some of the best on TV. I mean, like I said, early aughts didn't have a whole lot, but what they had was good.
Right.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
All right, moving into now we finally made it to 2010s and on current day.
Yeah.
In the last 10 years, we've not had a whole lot.
No.
There's not been a whole lot. I mean, recently we've gotten a few recently, but I mean, what we did get was good. But for genre TV, what we start off with, Terra Nova, that was recently, right? That was kind of like, what was that about, Doug?
They
went back in the past.
No, it's I believe the concept is, because I haven't watched it, I believe the concept is Earth is dying. So they send out this group of like pilgrims basically to go colonize a new Earth. That's it.
Okay.
Okay, real quick there, we kind of missed one in the early aughts, was Enterprise.
Yeah.
The 4th Star Trek spinoff.
Which I gotta admit, I watched here and there, very spotty. I never did, follow.
Well, much like you watching it, the quality was very spotty. It was some of them were really good, some of them were amazing episodes, and some of them were just like, what? The fact that it messed with it had, I guess, better continuity than Voyager, but it messed with the timeline several times to the point where I'm like, I don't know, it's not one of my favorites. I like Archer, I like the characters in it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. All right,
so that brings us to the modern day.
Modern day. Last 10 years. Kirsten, tell us about the 100.
I actually don't know anything about it. I know it exists. Wait, the 100, isn't that about, they are on a ship out in space. They've gotten to the point where they're limited on supplies, they're limited on space. So they decide to send kids down to Earth to see if it's safe again.
Right.
And it's all the misfits.
How many did they send down? All right. So the 100. Kirsten, tell us about the 100.
Okay, so I've only watched a little bit of it. This one's the one where they are on a spaceship above Earth, or a planet like Earth, right? And they're coming to a point in their lifespan where they're running out of materials, supplies, food, space. And so it's time now to go back to Earth and see if it's habitable. So they end up taking their miscreants.
So they boot the kids out.
Well, it's specifically the kids who have done bad things.
Oh, so it's a punishment.
Yeah.
Go down and survive.
So
how many do they kick out?
Well, they give them the option that they can stay in prison and likely get killed, or go down to Earth and
likely get killed.
Likely get killed, yeah. Especially if it's not ready, killed.
How many of them go down?
I think it was some number. It was a round number.
A round number, visible by 10.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Yeah.
Some number of kids go down, kick them off the ship.
Yep.
They go down and explore. I've not seen the 100. What about you, Doug? Have you seen anything?
No.
I've heard it's a decent show. I get bored of shows real easy, so I watched the first 5 episodes, or maybe not that far, maybe 3 episodes in, and then I think around that time Stranger Things had come out, and so I was like, ooh, this is really good. Let me watch
New
that.
shiny.
Yeah.
See, I look at this and I'm like, man, there's hardly any of these sci-fi shows in the last 10 years, yet I don't have time to watch TV.
Yeah.
Look back at all the shows in the 90s that I watched.
Yeah.
Plus I went to college, plus I drank. But,
You found time for it.
Found time for family and the whole somewhere and all that.
Yeah.
But I found time. Now I don't have any time. I don't know where all the time goes. But I've not seen the 100.
Well, you're watching shows other than the 100.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Or playing games.
Like The Expanse.
Yeah.
Now, sadly, Chris isn't here with us on the podcast. But if he was here, he would not shut up about The Expanse because he loves the show.
Yeah, he rants and raves about the show.
He rants about The Expanse. It is a good show. It is. It's it's a sci-fi space show, but it's very political. It's all about these different, the faction, the Mars colony, and the miners and all that. But there's like a mystery going on there. But behind it all, it's what Starship Troopers should have been, right?
Yeah.
If you've read the book Starship Troopers, right, you know how political that book is, right? I mean, fighting bugs is not the main part of the part of that book, right? It's all about the politics of the time. And that's what the Expanse is. It's the politics, but it's so good. It's like I don't know. I'm trying to determine what it is. Yeah, it's like House of Cards in space.
Okay.
But no, it's good, and especially the first season, got the mystery going on behind it. Have either one of you guys seen The Expanse at all? Am I the only one?
It's on the list to do.
Yeah, it is definitely. It's a good one. I've not seen. It took me a while to get through the first season, and then after that, it starts rolling. The second season's even better than the first one. Very good. Then also very good. Humans and Westworld came out about the same time, both about artificial life.
Right.
I opted for Westworld, so that's the one I watched. I didn't watch Humans. I hear Humans is good. I don't know, but I do know Westworld's good.
Yeah.
Westworld is amazing. And it's going to be like another. It's not out till the sequel's not out till next year.
Right.
We've got to wait 2 years between
That sucks.
seasons. But have either one of you watched Westworld?
No. I watched the original.
Oh yeah,
The movie. There's
had
the
Yul
movie.
Brynner in it. Of course, you had to watch that.
It's back in the 70s, I believe.
70s, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Yul Brynner was the main robot, right?
Yeah.
And it was just a movie, right?
It was more of an action. The movie was an action adventure. They got trapped in a lot, and the robots went haywire.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically, the entire first series of Westworld is a lead up to basically where they are in the movie.
Oh.
Right. So
Okay.
the robots don't go berserk until the very end of
Right.
Sure.
of the first season of Westworld. So
Yeah,
So
I
this
watched
is
the
almost like a
first couple of
prequel.
episodes of it. I really
It's
enjoy
really
it,
good. It's
but
really
I
good.
keep on promising people that I'll watch it with them, and so I keep on putting it on hold.
See-
But I can't wait. So
I had that problem too. People want me to, wait for me, watch with me. I
No.
finally decided to tell those people, forget you, I'm watching on my own.
right,
Now my wife and kids are mad at me, but about a lot of stuff. But I'm just watching. Westworld's very good.
Yeah.
And then, really, there's not a whole lot else in the last 10 years, sci-fi wise.
Yeah.
Solid sci-fi. There's a whole bunch of good stuff, right?
yeah,
Right.
But none of it is like full on sci-fi.
Shields could arguably be
Shield, yeah. Leftovers. There's a whole lot of things that could be argued, but they may fit better in the other
Sure.
series we're going to do here.
You're right.
And this year we got 2 new sci-fi after not having a whole lot. We got Discovery, Star Trek Discovery, another Star Trek show,
Right.
and the Orville, which is also another Star Trek show. If you watch it, if you know anything about the Orville, it's Star Trek. And now this is the big debate. It's going to end on this big debate here: Star Trek versus Discovery.
Okay.
Big thing is, no one's seen Discovery because you got to pay for it.
Right.
And I don't know what percentage of people actually get the all access, ABC all access, but not enough. Really, I'm not paying for it.
True hardcore Trekkies. I know
Yeah.
my significant other's parents pay
Yes.
for it because they've
Because
been
of Star Trek.
Trekkies through and through.
Now, despite not paying for it, I've seen the first 4 episodes. I'm not gonna say how. I'm just saying I don't pay for it. But it's not bad. But it's not Star Trek. It's something new, right? And it's something darker, and it kind of goes against the whole Gene Roddenberry vision of kind of things. And there's a reason for it. I mean, it kind of hint at a reason for it, and I'm sure by the end of the first season we'll know, what's going on with that.
Right.
But the Orville, on the other hand, is very much in the vein of Star Trek. It is brightly colored. It tells the kind of stories that the Next Generation told. It's got that feel. My only problem with it, and you've probably heard this, is it's kind of tonally, it's all over the place.
Right.
You know,
very
I thought
comedic
it was
one moment,
yes.
and very serious the next.
I thought it was going to be a spoof comedy.
Yeah, based on the advertising they put out, you thought that. Yeah.
They advertised a spoof, and they gave us a serious sci-fi show with very goofy moments sometimes.
Yeah.
And very goofy moments. When it gets goofy, it gets really goofy. So I don't know if it was a little bit funnier, it'd be a comedy. Yeah. If it was a little less funny, it'd be a serious sci-fi. But as it is, it just kind of straddles the line. I'm still hooked. I watch it every week. Right. So I prefer Orville over Discovery because it's one, it's easier for me to watch. I don't have to go jump through hoops to get it. And two, it feels more like Star Trek to me than the actual Star Trek show.
Yeah.
So, Kirsten, you've seen the Orville, right?
A bit of it, yeah.
Okay. What's your opinion? What do you think?
I agree with you. I feel like Orville's a little confusing because they go very serious to super goofy in like 5 seconds flat.
Yeah.
But I kind of like it that way. I feel like from what I've seen of Star Trek, which, I mean, 5 episodes into the old series, I feel like you're right. It does match that tonality where you've got like something extremely goofy and then you talk about some serious stuff and then you've got something extremely goofy. I think that they paced it better, Star Trek did.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like it's like Orville's lost in it. I still feel like there's a cohesive story. It's enjoyable. It's a little cheesy at times.
Yeah. Star Trek never had, a blob character voiced by Norm Macdonald who makes dick jokes with his appendages. When it got goofy, it wasn't ever that goofy.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's, I don't know.
They go ham on the cheese.
They do. They do. Now, Doug, have you seen or do you have any desire to see either one of these? No, that's a
no. Well, here's the thing. I have a desire to see them, just not the time. And, as we've gone along through these modern, you'll notice I have not watched a sci-fi show regularly in the last 10 years.
Yeah. That's
come out in the last 10 years. That's because all my interest has been shifted to all of the awesome superhero shows we have now.
Yes.
So those are the ones that I choose to give the limited amount of time I have.
Yeah.
It goes.
Unlike Sci-Fi, we didn't have any superhero stuff early on, 80s,
Very
90s,
little,
very little, and then we got a glut of it now, which is amazing. So Sci-Fi is waned, superheroes have gone up, and we'll discuss that on our next podcast. Probably.
Yeah.
But all right, folks, there you have it. We've gone through decade by decade of sci-fi genre television, the good, the bad, and a lot of ugly. Some of it's
A lot of
yeah, I don't really say ugly. A lot of it is kind of like
No, there was some.
There was there was some ugly.
There's definitely some.
But like I said, we've got a lot less in the last 10 years, but what we got was really good, right? Expanse of Westworld, they're really good shows. And then, the 90s were the heyday. I think the 90s were the heyday for genre television in general.
Yeah.
And you get some classics out of that period. So we'll be back to talk more about genre television with a different decade or different, same decades, different genre.
We'll hit superheroes. Now, this probably won't be until January because next month we're going to hit Star Wars because, we're going to have The Last Jedi coming out.
Sure.
Only once a month on the podcast, folks. This whole YouTube thing's taking our time.
By the way, go check us out.
Go check us out on YouTube if you haven't. If you listen to us on Stitcher or iTunes, we do, if you want to see our faces to match with the voice, our podcasts are all filmed and they're on YouTube along with a bunch of other great shows. Go like and subscribe. Tell your friends about us.
If you are on iTunes and Stitcher, review us, rate us.
Yep.
On there.
Exactly. If you want to support the channel, there'll be a link to our Patreon down below. Any little bit helps, and our patrons get access to early shows, behind the scenes and bloopers, and a bunch of other great stuff. So we appreciate it. Doug, where can they reach you?
At the G2 Doug.
At the G2 Doug. Kirsten?
At the G2 Kira.
At the G2 Kira. And I'm at the G2 Mike. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you folks next month.
Thanks. Bye.